Hello everybody, my name is Genki0122 and welcome back to the Great Ace Attorney Chronicles. Last time, we actually played as Susato, and we did the introductory case of the second game of the Chronicles in order to prove our friend's innocence. We had to impersonate a male attorney because we live in a society where women cannot be in the courtroom, and we're going to continue from there. We've gotten the initial trial out of the way, so now we're actually going to continue with the proper plot of the game. It seemed as though at the end of the previous episode, we established that even though Susato was called back to Japan because her father was allegedly sick, he was in perfect health. So hopefully we'll be able to find out why it is truly that Susato was called back to Japan.
It was a ghastly tale of a winter's night. One of an invisible killer and a crime perpetrated on the pavement along Briar Road. As the victim lay at death's door, the mystery of just who had stabbed the young lady from behind had been resolved. But no sooner had my friend saved that Eastern Exchange student from his harrowing plight than in the dim, flickering shadows of gaslight did a second bizarre crime rend the stillness of that very night. I dare say most can still recall the sensational headlines of the day. Haunted apartment of death, the condemned criminal's curse, the dread demon of coal gas. Yet, though the great detective had at once discerned the truth upon his arrival at the scene, it only proved to be the overture that announced the rising of the curtain on a most tragic play.
My name is Ryunosuke Naruhodo. I'm a fledgling lawyer just starting out on my journey. 6 months ago, I arrived as a visiting student of law. Having made the long voyage across the sea from the Empire of Japan to here, London, England. And on the way, in quite extraordinary circumstances, I made the acquaintance of a world-famous detective. Currently, I reside in the attic of the detective's own lodgings, from where I run my legal consultancy of sorts. I've successfully defended a number of clients in Britain's highest court, the Old Bailey. But since a particularly grueling and unforgettable legal battle 4 months ago now, I haven't returned to the courtroom. In truth, I lost my right to return. But that epic trial was just one small part of an epic tale, a tale which was now about to awaken from slumber, thanks to a letter that arrived this morning from my homeland. What a delicious smell wafting up the stairs. It must be nearly time for breakfast. I better go down to Mr. Sholm's suite and say good morning to the great detective and his flatmate. I can't wait to see Mr. Sholmes again. It's been so long, guys. Ah, Runo, good! I was just about to call up to you. The bacon's ready. Good morning, Iris. It smells delicious as usual. Before we eat, though, I have some news. I had a surprise this morning. Shh! Another word, Mr. Naruhodo. This could be just the abstruse thing for my pre-breakfast stagnation repelling mental simulation, my dear fellow. Morning to you too, Mr. Sholmes. Ah, yes. I see. So that's it. Please get away. That actually kind of scared me a bit. I have a very, large screen that I'm recording this on, and Mr. Sholmes taking up that much of it. Very uncomfortable for me. The truth is as clear to me as day. My faculties of observation have revealed it again. What are you talking about? You, Mr. Naruhodo, you have, this very morning, met with a surprise. Well, is that not the case? Really, my dear fellow, it barely warrants explanation. Firstly, your hair is particularly unkempt, somewhat reminiscent of a bird's nest. Secondly, you have neglected to fasten the third button of your jacket. I can't tell if he's deducing my situation or just roasting me. Clearly, when considered together, these two facts point to you having been flustered this morning. Also, you have no Jordans, and they are fake. Can I talk now? But of course, though I don't look for admiration, you understand. Sure you don't. My hair always looks like this. It's been this way since I first met you. Oh, it has? And the button was ripped off last night, if you remember. By you. Hurley pulled your button off? Okay, sure. Ah yes, I recall the incident now. It was after supper, was it not? As the evening advanced, I picked up my violin and began to play the wailing notes of a haunting tune. But then, to my utter dismay, the third string snapped. Why did it have to happen? Little wonder then that in my vexation I grabbed the first button I saw and ripped it from its proper place. Well, I'd like it back now, please. It's troubling me that I can't fasten my jacket. And it's troubling me that you expect me to know where it is. Somewhere thereabouts on the floor, one presumes. Helpful. What matters at the present time, my dear fellow, is simply whether or not my deduction was unerring. What does that mean? But Hurley, Runa said it when he came in, didn't he? I had a surprise this morning. Well, that really is a surprise. Yes, this man is the pride of the British Empire, the famous consulting detective, Mr. Sherlock Holmes. There can't be a single person in the world who doesn't know his name. Alright then, enough of this silly conversation. Come and eat this bacon before it goes cold. And I have a new herbal tea for you to try too. My latest special blend. And here we have Iris Wilson, Mr. Sholmes' lodger and companion. A truly exceptional young girl who's the author of a highly successful serialization here in London. Yes, The Adventures of Sherlock Holmes, as published in Rance magazine. So, Mr. Naruhodo, won't you put us out of our misery? What surprised you this fine morning? Well, I received a letter from Japan. Oh, from Susie, you mean? Was it? Really? That's right. And she had some rather startling news, in fact. Ah, intriguing indeed. You must tell us about it over breakfast. Oh yes, what fun! It is time to converse. Miss Suzato's letter. This is the letter that arrived from Japan this morning, by international post. Oh, how lovely! Look at Susie's beautiful writing. I wish I could read it. And how is your judicial assistant Fairy, may I ask? She's very well, thank you. In fact, according to what she's written, she actually appeared as a lawyer at the Japanese Supreme Court and won a case. Ah, really? Oh, isn't she wonderful? A cut above your good self, my dear fellow. I've won cases too, you know. Apparently, Mr. Natsume appeared in the trial as a witness. Natsume. Nope, don't recall that name. Of course you do. We helped the man. Twice. You know, in those 2 cases that took place on Briar Road 6 months ago? Ah, the mustached twitchy man with the somewhat feline eyes and the mustache. He didn't have 2 mustaches, Hurley. Yes, who could forget those 2 cases? They made a very deep impression on me. Clearly. Although I must confess, the details are a little hazy now. A very deep impression they made on you, clearly. So, what was this startling news penned by Miss Susato? Do you remember the case of the haunted lawn jeans, Mr. Sholmes? Ah, yes, it's very interesting, you know. I don't feel entirely uncertain that a case of that nature did not occur. He's totally forgotten then. Anyway, in her letter, Mrs. Otto asked that we read over her case notes again and investigate further. Though it took place half a year ago, for what purpose? Because of something Mr. Natsume said to her, apparently. He suggested that the real reason why she was called back to Japan so suddenly might have something to do with that case of the haunted lodgings. Oh? On Mr. Natsume's return to Japan, Mrs. Otto's father questioned him about the case, she says. And something Mr. Natsume said appeared to trouble Professor Mikotoba, prompting him to send that telegram. Oh, that case, yes! It was very strange, wasn't it? Yes. And I had compiled the whole story to a nice, neat manuscript ready for publication, too. But then Hurley here was all funny about it, remember? He was very mean. That story must not be published, you said, but very mysteriously as well. Really? I said that. Are you sure? Do you perhaps know something about it as well, Mr. Sholmes? About why Mrs. Sato was suddenly told 4 months ago that she had to return to Japan? Ah. It's been 4 months now since we waved Susie off at Dover. It was such a shock, wasn't it? The way she just suddenly announced that she had to go back to Japan? Indeed, it was, due to a telegram she received from her homeland, I believe. That's right, telling her to return urgently. Yes, because her father had passed away. That's not even right. No! It just said he was suffering from a high fever, the cause of which was unknown. He's not dead! But according to this letter, that news about her father's fever was just a ruse. A ruse? So Susie's daddy lied to her so she'd make the voyage back home? Why would he do that? I have to admit, I've absolutely no idea. But she believes it's almost certainly related to the case of the haunted lodgings. Summoning her back to Japan so suddenly like that. I wonder what Miss Suzato's father is hiding. Hurley, do you know what it's all about? Oh, that was quick. Ah, well, who can say? You, that's why we're asking. What? But you said... Please, I have engagements, my dear fellow. My calendar is quite surprisingly full today. And a stringent analysis of the matter would be excessive, I feel, even if I were quite at leisure. So, man the fort in my absence, won't you, Iris? I will, Hurley, don't worry. See you later. Just fades out. He scuttled off rather quickly there. I think perhaps Professor Mikotoba isn't the only person hiding something here. Sosuke-san was involved in 2 cases, but only one of them was forbidden from being published. By, of all people, Mr. Sholmes. Aha! I found them at last! Iris, are they... The notes about the case? That's right. Susie and I compiled them together. The case of the haunted lodgings. Do you want to read them, Bruno? Absolutely. Thank you, Iris. I have no idea what secrets could still be hiding in the shadows of this case. But perhaps if I read over the notes again, something might come to light. That's the spirit. And so, Iris and I decided to read over the case notes again together. Everything from what happened to our investigation and that fierce battle in court that followed. Reliving every detail. I just need to find a clue, and I have all the time in the world. Because, of course, I'm no longer allowed to practice law in the courts of Great Britain. It was 6 months ago, a mysterious incident that unfolded in the wintry streets of London. A young woman was found lying on the snowy pavement of Briar Road with a knife in her back. Fortunately, her life was spared, but she was unconscious for several days following the incident. The fog was thick, and nobody saw her attacker, but by a cruel twist of fate, a visiting Japanese student was walking behind her at the time and was duly arrested. That man was Sosuke-san, and the man who effected his arrest was Mr. Sholmes. Believing in our compatriot's innocence, Suzato-san and I decided to represent Sosuke-san in court. And, after a grueling trial of many twists and turns, we finally managed to prove his innocence. Joyful, joyous, jubilant, jubilation! Was the man's reaction after the trial, but his jubilant jubilation was short-lived. We received a telegram from Mr. Sholmes the following morning. The victim of the Briar Road stabbing has regained consciousness. Hurry to the barns at once. So Suzato-san and I summoned a hansom and headed immediately to the hospital. And remember, what's a hansom in this case? Okay, that's what I figured. Probably. There's a rat on the floor. There you are, at last! Good morning, Mr. Sholmes. I think not. Oh! You're late! What on earth took you so long? Your telegram only arrived at 5 o'clock, Mr. Sholmes, and it's a 20-minute ride to the hospital. That's right, and it's 5:30 now. I think we made very good time. The time is utterly irrelevant. The fact is, I've been waiting for what has felt like an eternity. It's literally been 30 minutes, dude. In point of fact, I myself was awoken at 4 this morning by a telegram boy. And feeling it was somewhat unjust that I alone had been roused such an hour, I sent one to you. Well, thanks for that. Anyway, you're here now, so the victim is over there. She's only just regained consciousness. You should introduce yourselves, and I shall observe from here. So that's the lady who was found on the snow-covered pavement with a knife in her back. Her name is... yes, here we are. Miss Green. Gee, I wonder why. Alright, so it looks like we need to examine... Let's examine the rat. Hey! A mouse was at a hotel. An enormous mouse! Vermin in a hospital? That doesn't seem the best. But it looks like a very healthy specimen, doesn't it? It's very plump. I'm not sure we can say that's down to the excellence of this facility, if that's what you were thinking. Alright, I just want to make any observations that I can here. See about the bag. That must be a bag of Miss Green's personal belongings. She would have been brought directly here after she was found stabbed in the pavement, though. I expect a friend or family member probably brought some things for her. Alright then, let's see what's inside. Change of clothes, no doubt, and... No, Mr. Nahodo, you must never scrutinize a young maiden's personal belongings. But the young maiden might have chocolates, or biscuits, or caramel. That's what you were looking for? Okay. I'm not even gonna get into that. You prioritize what you feel like, Naruhodoa, I guess. Ah, this looks like the patient's treatment notes. Let's see. Do not feed. What is this place, a zoo? You know, I seem to remember seeing an almost identical sign in our local park. For the pigeons, yes. This is a person. Poor woman. I hope she hasn't read this. Yeah, it's like, are we sure that's for her, or could it possibly be for the rate? I know it's a mouse, but still. What is this? This rounded wooden figure isn't the most charming, is it? Ah, I don't think that's a decoration, Miss Naruhodo. It's an artist's mannequin, I believe, used when practicing sketching the human form in different poses. Really? It's not exactly what you call a typical figure for that purpose, though, is it? No, I suppose not. I confess I've never seen one quite so full-figured before. Well, if you want to draw a full-figured person, it's the right tool for the job. Sheath that. Picture. Look, there's a photograph in this frame here. Oh yes, it's a picture of a young gentleman. He looks to be about the same age as Miss Green, I would say. Perhaps the young woman's special someone, do you think? My Mr. Naruhodo, I didn't know you had a sense for matters of the heart. Not in the least. I sincerely said the first thing I thought of. Okay. Alright, it seems to be a medicine cabinet. There are lots of bottles in that cabinet, aren't there? Do you think it's safe to keep them like that? If you were a patient here, I feel sure you'd take some medicine by mistake when you were half asleep. That is a worry, but at least the cabinet has a lock, even if it's only a flimsy-looking one. Oh, I've no doubt you'd manage to unlock that somehow while you were half asleep as well. There are limits even to what I can do when I'm half asleep, you know, Mr. Sato. God, I miss her dynamic. I really did miss this game. I'm so sad that I had to walk away from this for over a year. I'm glad to be back here, guys. Good morning. Hello, I'm Ryunosuke Naruhodo from the Empire of Japan. Oh no, was it your knife that... Are you the man who... No, I'm a lawyer. And I'm Susato Mikotoba. Pleased to meet you. Oh no, was it your knife then? Are you the one? No. I assure you, I'm Mr. Naruhodo's judicial assistant. We heard that you'd regained consciousness and wanted to come to give you our best wishes. Best wishes? For me? Thank you. I'm Olive Green. I'm an artist. Okay, moving on. Well, no, that's not right, is it? What I mean is, I'm trying to be an artist. Well, what I really mean is I desperately want to be an artist. But the truth is, I don't have any talent. I know I don't. It's no wonder I was stabbed in the back. Jeez! I don't think that's related, actually. Gosh, this young woman seems to bend over backwards to put herself down. Seeing as we're here, we should ask her about what happened from her perspective, I suppose. To suddenly be struck in the back by a blade as you were walking on the pavement. What a terrible experience you had, Miss Green. It was so cold that day, and the fog was so thick, I couldn't see a thing. That was 4 days ago now, I think. Is that right? Yes, that's right. I'm afraid you've been comatose all that time. But the case has been solved, hasn't it? Well, I've been here in the hospital, I mean. Indeed it has, my dear madam. Spectacularly by none other than I, Herlock Sholmes. There are 2 sets of windows here, sir. I will chuck you out one of them. You don't be quiet. Mr. Sholmes, as you well know, it was Mr. Naruhodo's hard work in the court that solved the case. Are you yet to hear what happened, Miss Green? Yes, I'm afraid so. A gentleman from the police force is supposed to be coming to fill me in shortly. Oh, I see. Me coming round seems to have made everyone frantically busy. I'm so sorry. I should never have regained consciousness. What the? It was selfish of me. It's selfish of you to regain consciousness after being stabbed? No! Oh no! We're also relieved that you're on the mend, Miss Green. Really, we are. With that kind of attitude, maybe her surname should be Blue, not Green. God. Ritosuke. I don't know if I want to ask her about herself. I don't think she has very nice things to say. But we gotta do it. So, you're an artist, are you, Miss Green? Oh no, I couldn't possibly claim that. I'm a fledgling artist at best. I mean, I'm a student of art, really, at the Thorndike Academy of Fine Arts. Oh my, an Academy of Fine Arts? Great Britain is such a wonderful country. Tell me, Miss Green, do you live hereabouts? Oh no, actually, I don't deserve it, but I have a little flat on Brixton Road. I see. How very interesting. Oh no, is it? Brixton is some 10 stops away on the underground from here. And Thorndike Academy is a mere 3-minute walk from Brixton Town Center. Does that matter, Mr. Sholmes? Perhaps not, but Briar Road is far less salubrious part of town by comparison, dwelt in by those of inferior means, including the maleficent Mr. Moustache. Inferior means? I suppose Sosuke-san does fit the bill. It struck me as somewhat out of the ordinary for a young fine art student to be walking on such a district. And that's all. What's this? She suddenly clammed up. Mr. Sholmes, you should be ashamed of yourself, prying into a young man's private affairs. Oh dear me, do forgive me. If you don't mind, I'm being discharged shortly, so I need to pack up my things. Oh, yes, of course, we won't keep you. Thank you so much, Miss Green. Is that Mr... Is that Mr. Narrowfolder here? Mr. Narrowfolder? Narrow fodder now? Well, if you're looking for Mr. Naruhodo, the lawyer, that's me, but... Ah, Mr. Narrowfolder, good, this is for you. It's a message from Mr. Saucy Nutmeg. What? Mr. Natsume? Sent a message to me? Oh, Saucy Nutmeg, okay. You guys are so terrible at doing Japanese. But why would a policeman be delivering a message from Mr. Natsume? Exactly. What's going on? What's a Scotland Yard constable doing playing delivery boy at this time of the morning? Ah, what are you waiting for? Let me see that. Oh. Well, this is most unexpected. Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes? Is something wrong, Mr. Sholmes, he says. Have you not seen this note? I haven't. You took it from me. No, how could I have? It would seem that London's criminals have no intention of letting the great detective rest. A new case calls. A case of murder, no less. We must depart at once. Murder? Call a cab. Time is of the essence. But the trouble is, we've yet to read Mr. Natsume's note. I was thinking we ought to pay him a visit at his lodgings once we did. That will be entirely convenient. Convenient? What do you mean? It's all here in the note, my dear fellows. The murder we must investigate took place at Mr. Moustache's lodgings. Wait, what? I'll hail a farce at once. What are these words? I don't mean to get on the Gates case, but seriously, it was only yesterday that Sosuke-san was in court and we were dispelling doubts about his innocence. And now, the very next day, there's a murder at the man's own address? He may very well be the unluckiest man alive. Or so it seemed to us at the time, but we were soon to discover it was worse than we thought. Oh, that guy. What on earth? Oh my, the gentleman is deceased without question. He's dead. Locum student, Mr. Naruhodo Esquire. Mr. Natsume. Oh, why? Why is this happening? Why to me? I've only just got out of court yesterday. I was finally home after 2 days of misery. And then I wake up the next day to this. No early bird should catch a worm like this! Wonderful! World without wiggle! We need that on a shirt. I see you're in high spirits again this morning, Mr. Moustache. Ah! Not the horrible Herlock Sholmes! Shoo! Shove off! Show yourself the door! I never invited you! Mr. Sholmes came here with us. I'm quite sure he'll be able to help you, Mr. Natsume. I'm entirely at your disposal, Mr. Moustache. What can I do for you? Here they are, already. The busybodies. Ah, Inspector Gregson. What a pleasant surprise. Pleasant, is it? Gives me heartburn every time I see your face at a crime scene, Sholmes. Ha! I deduce, Inspector, that your heartburn is a result of your excessive consumption of fried food. Okay, you know what? I'm gonna give you a hard pass on that, Sholmes, because I was thinking the exact same thing. Word for word. Good morning, Inspector. This is a crime scene. Don't you go touch anything. Or good morning to you too, sunshine. Alright guys, we are back at it. It's time to investigate the crime scene. What should we look at first? Piece of paper on the floor. That seems to be the most important thing in the room. Oi! I say hands off! You're gonna mess up my crime scene. Oh, no, I just want to look, that's all. No chance! I know your kind. You'll mess up just by looking at it. Someone's in a bad mood. There's certainly some here, isn't there? Alright, it sounds like I'd better talk to the inspector first and try to curry some favor. Alright, let's talk to him then. So, Inspector, what was the victim's name? Who was he? Mr. William... Guys, I can't deal with these names. I just can't. Mr. William Shamspeare. He was a lodger here. As you could probably tell, he was an actor. A bit of a dead loss, as it happens. Or just dead. Mr. Shamspeare. It was the landlord, old Mr. Garadeb, and the other lodger, Mr. Natsume, who found him. The fellow didn't rise at his usual hour, so Garadeb got word and kicked the door down. But doesn't Mr. Garadeb have a bad leg? Ah, yeah, you're right there. It was that jittery Japanese hunchback over there that actually did the kicking. Really? Sosuke-san? The victim was pretty hard up, it seems, even done some time inside for petty crimes. He had no money, no place to go, and no friends. His only acquaintances were the people in this house. Miserable life, and a miserable end to it. So, what exactly is Mr. Natsume still doing here? He's not involved in the investigation, so shouldn't you have sent him away from the crime scene? Well, I'm not saying it's because the fellow looks odd or anything, or that he acts suspicious. But I thought it would be prudent to take a statement from the culprit, cohabiter. You nearly said culprit there, didn't you? Oh dear. Mr. Natsume appears to be under suspicion again. It certainly seems that way. He does just come across as such an odd fellow, doesn't he? Poor man. How unfortunate. Anyway, I can't say much until the coroner gets here. But I don't think the fellow's been a goner that long. The body's still warm. Even if the inspector would allow it, I don't think I could bring myself to touch a dead body. Alright, so we've talked to Gregson, we've dealt with that thing on the floor, as well as all this. Can't interact with that right now because Gregson's still here. So... Suski! What a terrible thing to have happened. It's only been 3 days since I was arrested for the incident on the pavement outside. And then, having finally regained my freedom, it starts happening all over again. Endless existence of excruciating experiences! I can't. So, the victim lived here on the ground floor, and your room is just one story up, isn't it? Yes, that's right. In a way, we were neighbors, I suppose. So, did you know the victim? Were you friends? You alright, Suski? What's the matter with Suski-san now? It was an innocent enough question, wasn't it? Why does he seem so shaken by it? Well, I suppose he was a complete stranger. But he... Did he ever invite me to his room? Never! On my honor! I swear it! What an extreme reaction. You're probably wishing you'd never asked now, aren't you, Mr. Naruhodo? When we found him here, I felt wretched, which is why I sent word asking you to come. Through that inspector over there! Gee, what's changed? It's a person! There's a person standing here in a particularly... I can't do alliteration. What's up, Sholmes? Mr. Sholmes, what are you doing? Ha! You need only observe to know it, my dear fellow. Investigating, naturally. There's nothing natural about that pose. Mr. Sholmes, have you made some miraculous discovery? Patience, my dear madam, patience. We've not been here in this room 5 minutes. So far, all I've managed to deduce is what actually happened. Is that all? My goodness! But isn't that everything we need to know, Mr. Sholmes? Now that you propose the idea, I believe one could indeed see it that way. At the present time, I've managed to draw 2 incontrovertible conclusions. The first, that there was a physical struggle here last night in which the victim fought for his life. Mr. Natsume, what's wrong? Is something that Mr. Sholmes said significant somehow? No, don't mind me. Forget I was here. And my second conclusion is that there was a poison lingering in the air here last night that passed the victim's lips. Nonsense! All right, Mr. Natsume, why are you reacting so extremely to Mr. Sholmes' deductions? No, please, pretend I'm not here. Invisible, infallible, inscrutable, insignificant. Okay. Impossible to ignore. You must tell us everything, Mr. Sholmes. Spare no detail. But of course, let the theatrical tragedy before us be unraveled by my great deductions, presented for your pleasure in 2 acts. We've heard some truly astounding great deductions from Mr. Sholmes in the past. No doubt this will be no exception. What miracles unfold before our eyes this time. So, my dear fellows, for your delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Sherlock Sholmes, Logic and Reasoning Spectacular, Act 1! We're back, baby. Let's do it. A game is afoot. Cause of death. Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this disconsolate room last night. Foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate, which contains, you will observe, 1/2 a sizable bar of soap, meaningful, indubitably. Why is this soap set so purposely upon the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact. Yes. What? Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course, the fork reveals the answer. It appears that the young man's appetite was his undoing. Taking up arms in the form of his cutlery, the victim engaged in a deadly battle for his life. Yes, the struggle against his hunger was in vain, for in the end he couldn't resist devouring the slippery feast. But London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the plate. The soap and the lather by the young man's mouth are too perfectly matched to ignore. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to excessive ingestion of foul soap. No. Though personally, I have a greater interest in the taste of the foul candle wax, of course. Poisoning from soap ingestion. Topic 2. Suicide or murder? The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall that the death occurred during the victim's last supper. Did the man dine and die alone? This single teacup suggests the answer. To draw a conclusion on such a meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. The careful criminal could have absconded with his own cup to cover his tracks. Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. Though forced open now, at the time of the incident, this door was locked. And the sole key was in the victim's pocket. In other words, when the victim consumed the poison, he must have been alone. Alone with his inferior soap, from whence wafted an inferior scent. And with that acrid aroma lingering in the air, the victim met his end in tragic solitude. We can take comfort only in the fact that his soul was well cleansed on its way to the hereafter. No possible perpetrator present. Thus concludes the final act of Sherlock Sholmes' Great Deduction. Couple problems, but we'll get to that. There's just one thing, Mr. Sholmes. You are disposed to identifying just one thing, aren't you, Mr. Naruhodo? Pray, what concerns you? Well, no matter how hungry he was, do you really think that man would have eaten soap? It is quite apparent that this man had barely a penny to his name. It is a curious thing, but to one so destitute, soap can suddenly appear quite irresistibly appetizing. How extraordinary. In truth, I have tried a little soap myself in the past. You've eaten it, you mean? My dear fellow, it was some time ago now. My postulation was that it would cleanse my gut. And did it? As I writhed in agony on the floor and spit the contents of my stomach, yes, I believe it did. The experience taught me a valuable lesson. Soap is quite poisonous. It has an unpleasant taste and leads to great discomfort. In summary, I cannot recommend it. Believe me, I wouldn't eat it even if you did. There's something that troubles me as well, actually. Oh, what's that? It's Mr. Natsume. Ah! I couldn't help notice him shuddering and quivering out in the corner of my eye. Almost as if Mr. Shom's seductions touched a nerve somehow. No! Nonsense! Well, that clenched teeth episode didn't last. I think, judging by Mr. Natsume's reaction, the great detective seductions may need some gentle corrections in order to reach the actual truth. Yes, Mr. Shom's observations and deductions are sometimes a little too sharp. He has a tendency to hit the nail on the side of the head and drive it in at an obtuse angle. When he does that, it falls to us to straighten things out. Alright then, let's see what we can do. Yes, we must pick out the keywords of Mr. Shom's quite brilliant deductions. And discreetly exchange them for something that makes a little more sense. If we can do that, I'm sure we'll arrive at what Mr. Shom's meant to say in the first place. In that case, are you ready for the second performance of the day? Once again, my dear fellows, for your continued delight and wonder, let the curtain rise. For Herlock Sholmes's Logic and Reasoning Spectacular, Act 1. Course correction! Hold it, Mr. Sholmes! Let's try this again. Careful observation of the victim reveals to us the events that transpired in this dissolute room last night. Or disconsolate. Foam at the mouth of the deceased clearly indicates the use of poison. Next to the victim, we notice a large dining plate, which contains, you will observe, 1/2 a sizable bar of soap. Meaningful? Indubitably. Why is this soap set so purposely upon the dish? Like the victim's last supper, in fact. Yes. Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course. The fork reveals the answer. Well, you can't deny that a fork implies the man was eating something, or about to eat something. Yes, that's true. If I were to decide to eat some soap, I should prefer to use a fork than attempt it with chopsticks. And of course, only half the bar of soap is left on the plate. But might there not be some explanation? Something material that proves whether or not the man really ate some soap? Alright, so we just need to look here closely. There's not really much else to look at. There's only like 2 things to really present. Yeah, the teacup with a fork. Let's see. Do you think he was drinking tea with his soap? The cup's empty, so there's no way of knowing. Ah, how about this for an idea? Perhaps the cup was full of water. And he was dissolving soap in it so he can gulp that as much as possible? Please remember that he may not actually have been the soap lover that he's been made out to be. Yeah, considering that in this instance the only thing I can present is the teacup, I think it's the teacup.
Take that!
Nope. Ah. There's another piece of soap on the floor. Look! There's more soap on the floor here! Mr. Shamspeare must really have loved the stuff. Let's not jump to conclusions, Mr. Naruto, though. Look closely at this soap. Do you see that it would fit together perfectly with the half bar on the table? What the? How can that be? I think that they are 2 halves of the same bar that broke apart. Okay, well, there we go.
Take that!
Could it be that the man was about to eat it? Of course. The other piece of soap reveals the answer. It being the other half of the soap on the table. In short, the victim was not eating soap at all. But it's obvious, really, for no depths of hunger could drive any man to attempt to eat soap. Even I, with my unquenchable thirst for practical knowledge, took only a single bite. But that begs the question of how the man was poisoned, because there's no sign of any food on the table. An excellent observation, Mr. Naruhodo, and one that furnishes us with the answer we seek. For London's foul soap is besmirched by foul poison. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the contents of the table or the plate. Mr. Sholmes is still pushing the soap argument then. Perhaps he's suggesting the man licked the soap rather than ate it? If soap in London is that poisonous, I don't think I want to be washing my hands with it. But there are no signs of any food in this room at all. Of course, food isn't the only thing that passes people's lips, is it? Okay, I think we finally got to the matter of the teacup.
Take that!
Hopefully this is right. There we go. Yes, the victim's life was claimed by poison that tainted the teacup. Indeed, cups have been the vessel of choice for practicing poisoners over the centuries. And it would appear that this victim drank every last drop. There's no sign of food anywhere in the room. Which leads us to the immutable conclusion. The cause of death was clearly intoxication due to the ingestion of poison contained in this teacup. Poison in the tea. Let's go! Solved! The cause of death identified, we proceed to Act 2, where we ponder the next question. Was this suicide or murder? The audience will recall that the death occurred during the victim's Last Supper. Did the man dine and die alone? This single teacup suggests the answer. Ah, the Western vessel for infused hot drinks again. It's already featured heavily in our deduction so far. Yes, we can imagine that shortly before his death, Mr. Shamsir was having a drink of tea. There would be nothing remarkable about that, but what troubles me is Mr. Natsume's reaction when he heard Mr. Sholmes suggest it. There's more to seduction than it seems. We must closely examine the scene of the crime again for some more clues. Okay, I have a little more to work with. Ah! There's another teacup, bro! How do we not notice that? It's another Western vessel for it's a teacup! And it's too empty. Given that he's actually holding this one in his hand, we can assume that is the cup from which Mr. Shamsir was actually drinking. But if that's the case, this changes everything. Everything we've deduced up to now is turned on its head. I have a bad feeling about this. I almost don't want to say it. Yes, I know exactly how you feel.
Take that!
Did the man dine and die alone? This other teacup suggests the answer. Yes, there were two teacups in this room all along. Ah. In other words, this is a strong indication at the victim's Last Supper. There was a guest present. At the very least, we can say now with certainty that somebody else was here in this room last night, taking tea with the victim. What are you talking about? Utterly, unbelievably, unjustly unreasonable! To draw a conclusion on such a meager evidence would be foolish, however, certainly. In which case, what more can we deduce about this possible guest at the table? Well, allow me to lift the veil of doubt, my dear fellow. Do you mean to say you know exactly who was in this room at the time of the victim's death? Indeed. What reveals the answer, of course, is the broken lock. I'm not sure I like where this deduction is going now. I'm afraid it's too late to go back to the halcyon days of eating too much soap. But the identity of the guest who was in here last night when the victim passed away is something I have a very bad feeling about. Well, you can try to ignore your feelings, but we cannot ignore the truth, Mr. Naruhodo. No, I suppose not. Time to look around again. Let's just examine the pile of books here. At first glance, it seems that the only things in this room are the makeshift stage and the costumes. I overlooked these 3 books initially. I wonder what they are. Let's see. The titles read The Picture of Monsieur le Cure, Canterbury Yearnings, and Emile Fergaboro. Wait, I'm sure I've heard those titles before. It could just be an incredible coincidence, but they're the exact same 3 books that Mr. Natsume purchased the other day. What? Yes, on the day of the unfortunate incident when Miss Green was stabbed. Sotsuki-san had just been to the bookshop and bought them. That's right. And now those 3 titles are here in the room of the victim. Yet Mr. Natsume claims to have never been here before. What does this mean? Do you think... I really don't know what to make of it. Yeah, it's a pile of familiar books. That's not good.
Take that!
Indeed, what reveals the answer, of course, is the pile of familiar books. Oh, quite so. It's no more coincidence that these 3 titles are here in this room. It's the link to the truth. Aha! Mr. Natsume, you purchased these books 4 days ago at a secondhand bookshop. That's just a coincidence. In that case, you will be able to bring the same 3 titles from your own room, will you not? This very moment. No! Never! Non-negotiable! If you can't bring your own copies here, it proves that these 3 books are in fact yours. Having purchased the books 4 days ago and returned to your lodgings, you were arrested the very next day. So you could conceivably have bought these books here on that evening, but you never mentioned that. In other words, you could only have brought these 3 books here to the victim's room. What the Last night, had returned to your lodgings after the trial concluded at the Old Bailey. In short, there is only one possible conclusion. The victim died here in his room last night as a result of poisoning. And that same night, the victim had a visitor. And that visitor was you, Mrs. Sotsuki Natsume. Thus concludes the final act of Herlock Sholm's Great Deduction. Sotsuki Natsume at the scene. Solved! Deduction complete. Elementary.